What's up, guys? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I wanted to break down what's happening with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's happening with the economic calendar moving forward, talk about big data coming out for tomorrow, not to mention what the charts are suggesting. But just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total. Not to mention 8.1% APY on uninvested cash. The offer is in just 4 days. Anyways, now let's talk about the charts right now. So as far as Tesla's going, Tesla got this big red bar on Monday after we got some negative news that came out involving the state of California and UBS. The news is still circulating to this day, so I'm going to be talking about that as well. And then what happened was today we attempted to rebound, and I think we did a pretty good job. But there was an issue with this. We actually saw this rejection very close to our 342 area. This is at our 20 EMA. And instead of holding above this, we got this big rejection, which led to this downside right over here. So the chart right now is looking a little bit weaker because of that. We have to hold above our 20 EMA to continue to push. Otherwise, this is going to likely see even more downside from here. So let's talk about this news. There was some news that came out that the overall move ever since the election wasn't necessarily fundamentally backed according to UBS. And they have a price target of about $226 a share. They gave Tesla a sell rating. That's why we saw some major downside on Monday. There's also this news right over here involving, the state of California. I did go over this yesterday in a lot more detail. So if you want to hear about that, you guys can look at my previous video. But for now, I just wanted to say that this was a little bit more negative. There are tax incentives in the state of California, but Tesla's not going to be included in them. The reason for that is because of politics, straight up, and it's just not the best of news for Tesla. For the short term, I would say that it's a little bit more of a negative catalyst, but the long term is still going to be fine, especially as they have different catalysts to really run after. Volume was at about 61 million. This is below average, so very low volume, at least for the day. Short volume is also decreasing a little bit, and then UBS is still maintaining a sell rating, so just keep that in mind. Besides that, the price-price ratio is dipping as overall the share price is showing weakness relative to the broader markets. And then historically, we tend to be green about 48% of the time on Wednesdays, so not always the strongest of days, especially as you approach the holiday. Besides that, I just wanted to mention that we had a very, very mixed day today. We saw some, of the Mag 7 trying to push up and hold, whereas the majority of stocks that they were kind of flat. And then don't forget, tomorrow is going to be Wednesday, November 27th. So there's going to be a lot of data before open, 1 hour specifically before open at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, I'm not really a fortune teller, so I can't predict everything that's going to happen with this data. What I can tell you is that we have our PCE report coming out in the morning. We'll be watching to see what that ends up looking like. We are expecting core and everything to be very close to expectations. Then we have the GDP growth numbers coming out. Now, the thing about GDP is we're expecting a 2.8% rate. We'll see what it looks like tomorrow. And then we also have initial jobs claims, so some jobs numbers. Once again, I don't know what the numbers will look like, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens from there. So that's what we're essentially looking at in terms of that. I would say it's very interesting. And whatever happens with this data is going to cause some interesting volatility, which I don't really know. We'll have to see about how that ends up looking. Besides that, we have a PMI report at 9:45 a.m. And then at 10 o'clock a.m., we have a couple of bill auctions that might cause more volatility. Besides that, the main time to watch for volatility is at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, in terms of earnings, most retail were not doing too well because of the fact that they had weak guidance. I did talk about that earlier. But then we had Dell. If anything, things were not looking as great. We had EPS at about $2.15 adjusted. That's below expectations. Revenue at $24.4 billion. This was also below expectations. But the issue is that for guidance, we're expecting 24 to 25 billion. That is in revenue, but that's below what we were previously expecting. Then we have $2.50 in adjusted EPS. That is also below expectations. So if anything, the data is looking a little bit weaker, at least in terms of its outlook. And that's why we ended up seeing a bit of a dip. Now, today, just know that there was a lot of greed that was surged because of what we saw from the Fed. They came out with the FOMC minutes, and they announced that the majority of their officials are still favoring to be a little bit more dovish, and they are still in favor of a potential cut that could be coming. That's why the market did see this push. Now, right now, greed is what's making up the majority of sentiment. It's still there. We'll have to see how well we hold above these levels. And besides that, there's not really a whole lot else to talk about. Now, I just want to focus on the charts as there's still a lot of greed that's present. So, what do we see for the share price right over here? As you guys could see, Tesla's stuck in between this range right over here. We have this resistance to watch for at this 342 area. If we manage to crack past that, we're looking for the high of the day at 348, eventually 350 to be tested. And if we reject here, we're looking for essentially this imbalance down here at 330, 334. This is going to be our next support. If that fails us, I'm looking for 329, the 50 EMA, and then all the way back down towards 321 if that fails as well. So I'll be watching this very, very closely just to see how this ends up reacting. But there is one issue with this bearish engulfing candlestick. We attempted to come back up only to get a big rejection. So this is looking a little bit weaker to me. This suggests that there is that risk of us coming down tomorrow, especially as we are approaching the holiday season. There is that risk of us retesting this low right here around this 335 area. We also closed in the red despite the fact that SPY and the QQQ were in the green. So this is weakness developing on the charts. We'll watch our levels just to be safe. And always remember, if we get back above 350 because of bullish news, we will turn bullish. As long as we lose 334 or so, we are favoring downside. This chart is favoring that it's going to be revisiting 334, and then we'll see what kind of reaction we get. It does favor downside a bit more. I'm a little bit wary about that claim, though, because of the fact that we have all this data coming out tomorrow. It's a little hard to predict because I'm not really a fortune teller. I don't know what's going to happen with inflation, with jobs numbers, and then also with our GDP reports. So I don't truly know. So I can't say this is 100% certainty. But I do want to say that the chart, at least for now, does favor downside a bit more. Now, as far as SPY goes, I want to just say that it's looking bullish. But there is one thing that's worth mentioning, that is there's a very, very tough resistance at 600. We'll have to see if we could break that or not. As of right now, it's on a very, very strong uptrend. Every time it's been, dipping, it's getting bought back up. So it does favor that it wants to push a little bit more closer to about that 602.5 area. They may try to push it to all-time highs, tomorrow. But then we'll have to see what kind of reaction we get from there. So as of right now, the chart does favor it's going to dip a bit before it tries to push. As long as it's above 600, we're looking for 602.5. If 600 fails us, though, we're looking for 598. But overall, it looks bullish to me. We'll see what happens with the data release. ES is looking more bullish. We'll have to see if we can try to crack past 6,050. If we lose 6,025, we're looking for a dip back down, but I think this is favoring upside. I think this could be pushing for 6,050 or so. For BTC, I just want to say that this is on a bit of a downtrend here. Could try to retest 92,500 before it tries to reject. I do anticipate a little bit of a bounce tomorrow for the 92,500 area or above. And we'll see if it gets a rejection from there or not moving forward. For others, such as NQ, we're looking for the 21K mark to be met. It might try to test that tomorrow. We'll see if we break that or not. But overall, the chart is favoring upside a bit more. Now, it's very choppy right now, but I think it's looking quite good as it's holding above its EMAs. The QQQ, we look more bullish as we're trying to break out right over here, making higher highs and higher lows. This is also favoring that it wants to break past 510. So I think that this is doing a good job so far. This is going to be depending a lot on the tech sector, so we'll have to see how that goes. But overall, it's doing a great job. For Apple, I think that this is looking bullish. I think there's a very, very good chance that this pushes for 236.5. I think there's a very, very good chance of that. It has a very, very vertical move right here. Watch 234 is support if that fails us, we dip, but otherwise this is favoring upside for that potential target. We also called out a head and shoulders forming on NEO. I do want to say there's a gap down here that it might end up filling, so that's going to lead to a little bit of downside, especially after what's happening in the sector. For this one, for Netflix, I just wanted to say that we anticipated that this would get a rejection off that 900 resistance. That's what happened so far. And notice that we're below our 20 EMA at 875. This could favor downside as well if we get this rejection. So there's a risk of this continuing to fall for that 860 area, that potentially back down to about that like 851 zone to the 50 EMA. So I think that this is rejecting, not looking the best, at least thus far. With the shift that's happening, at least right now, especially as market is moving directions. I just wanted to say that MSTR is looking weaker. It has to reclaim 376 to hit 402. I think that there's a chance that it does try to get back up to between 376 and about 400 in that range. It does try to retest that, but then it could get a rejection, start dipping lower back down to these supports because we had a high here, came down, and a lower high came down. It could push and reject, so give this some time to develop. For Celsius, the issue is that we're also below our 1520 EMAs and showing weakness here. So it does favor a move back down towards these lower imbalances. And it could be on its way back down towards 27.5. And if that fails, so I'm looking for essentially the 25s. For Supermicro, I think that there's a good chance that this is going to be following semiconductors. And we see a dip back down to these supports, taking us to about that 32 area. On a balance, I think I may have skipped over Nvidia. We have a double top leg structure, kind of like a bearish divergence. We're looking for 135 to be retested. If that fails us, we're looking for 133 is the most likely possibility. Just being very, very mindful of the fact that there's weakness building right here. We have the same thing on Rivian. We have a double top that's developed. We have to try to break past 12. Otherwise, I'm looking for 11 and 10.7 is our potential targets. Same thing with SoFi. I think that this could be retesting 15.24. If that fails us, I'm looking for essentially 14.8. I think this is favoring downside a little bit more. For the IWM, we're rejecting right over here. We're going to be looking for this resistance around this 242 area. And the main support's down here at 239. I think we shuffle a bit. Look for a push for 242 tomorrow morning, then just a continuation to this range. For AMD, we have this big rejection. It's following the semiconductors. I think that if it tries to reclaim 138.95, we could attempt to get to 140, but I don't favor that. I think it could pop a bit and start dipping lower for that 135 target. ARM has the same setup. If it loses 136, we're looking for a dip back down to about 132. Coin has the same setup. It's very flat right now between 304 and 294. So we're stuck right here, but I do see a risk of this dipping a little bit lower if we lose 294. As far as this goes, I am favoring this imbalance fill all the way up here. We'll have to see if it holds 205, and then this imbalance will take us up to like 210. Meta has a similar setup. We'll be watching to see what happens at this 570 area. It might retest up before it tries to bounce. I'm seeing the same setup as well over here. I think there's going to be a test of 425 for this new change right over here has resistance, but then we'll see if we bounce off 425 or not. I'm seeing the same thing with Alphabet. We're looking for 170 is our resistance, 171 or so. If we break this, I'm looking for 173. This has upside potential if we break 171, so look for 173 as our next potential target. GME attempted to break out only to dip, so it is riding this 20 EMA. Could retest 28.84 before it tries to rebound. I'm seeing the same thing with AMC. This could retest 4.68 to 4.7 before it tries to bounce. DJT is most likely going to be range bound, and then the VIX is dipping right now, so this tends to favor upside, at least for the broader markets. The 10-year is very flat. It did push a little bit after what the Fed announced, and then we have the dollar also very flat, not really affecting the market as much. So that being said, I thank you guys for your attention. I just wanted to say that right now there's a lot of ambiguity going into tomorrow, given the data that's coming out. But just know there's a lot of weakness, at least for the way that Tesla's been moving, and we'll have to see what happens from here. Anyways, I thank you guys for listening. Please have a great rest of your night. I'll be back tomorrow, so thank you for listening. Bye.